Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Coming home from the training ground. Only then did Zian feel the extreme exhaustion. It's like he's about to faint in the next second. So tired, so exhausted. The limits of the body have been fully activated. But at the same time, the practice room is filled with massive amounts of heavenly material and earthly treasure spray gas. It also poured into his body crazily, constantly tempering his body and stimulating the growth of his biological energy. Surprisingly discovered, this kind of cultivation method results in the growth rate of bioenergy that can even catch up with 1/3 of my daily bioenergy conversion. Don't underestimate this third. To use an analogy, for example, it takes Zian 3 months to reach the next stage of bioenergy evolution. Then this third is added. It only takes 2 months. But be aware. Normally it wouldn't take him 3 months to practice, but at his current speed, it will take about a little more than 2 months to reach the full value of the first-grade War Master level creature. That is to say, even if it continues at this rate, it will take me at most 1.5 months to reach the breakthrough time period. But this is just the beginning. The training in the training camp will only get faster and faster in the future. Especially as your physique becomes stronger and stronger, your cultivation will only go faster. The stronger your physique, the longer you can exercise. Exercising for longer also means can absorb more Tian Kai Dibao spray. Maybe in the future, it will really be possible to break through a level in a month or even less than a month. -6. Can really break through to the level of cruiser captain. Break through a big realm in 1 year. During the destroyer era. Absolutely unimaginable. And this is just the most intuitive benefit. Really the biggest benefit. It was after graduating from training camp. Your Star Wars, personal battles, and talents. It will all rise 1 or even several steps. That is the most important thing, the benefit that can affect a lifetime. The first time I got home, Zian sat directly in the constant temperature bathtub. Even a large number of various natural materials and treasures were thrown into it. Coupled with what he had absorbed in the previous training room, he began to crazily replenish his body that was exhausted to the limit. Empty body was repaired quickly. Crazy is growing. Such a training speed. Unimaginable. Early the next morning, when Zian woke up, he was already feeling refreshed. A large amount of Tian Kai Dibao gas, plus taking the Emperor Tian Kai Dibao himself and soaking it in the bathtub. All of this restored Zian's tired body to full strength. And bioenergy has indeed increased by 1/3 of its growth rate. And convert your own wealth value into bioenergy, and it's even better. It is even more effective than swallowing heavenly materials and earthly treasures to temper your body normally. If I have the opportunity in the future, I must create a dedicated training room and get some good recipes. After feeling the terrifying benefits of this cultivation method, Zian immediately made up his mind. In the past, I wasn't so dedicated when searching for cultivation formulas. Now that he has realized the benefits, Zian can't wait to search all over the world now. But that formula is top secret. No matter how bad the formula is, it is always top secret. Even if it's a private recipe. Regardless of whether it is human race, alien race, or insect race, it is absolutely forbidden to make it public. This is to prevent the other party from taking away the formula developed by oneself. Bioenergy is the most important thing in the interstellar era of the universe. Then it is a formula that can temper the body and improve cultivation. There is no doubt that it is extremely precious. Even if it is a formula developed by private research, no matter it is good or bad. Any disclosure is strictly prohibited by law. Others want to gain. No problem. Spend your own money to buy it. I don't even have the money to buy the formula. That also proves that it's useless even if you get the formula. You can't afford the large amount of natural materials and treasures required in the formula. Anyway, this method can reduce formula leakage to a certain extent and can also increase profits for formula researchers. Of course, these are just the most common recipes. A truly precious, powerful formula. The three major groups are strictly prohibited from selling. Unless you have made a big contribution, and even if you have a contribution, your identity must be investigated and verified. Only after you are confirmed to be innocent will this recipe be open to you. Otherwise, the most it can be is a well-prepared medicine. After eating a sumptuous breakfast, cooked by the robot nanny, Zian drives the Star Shuttle. Head to the training ground. There will be no Star Wars assessment today, so there is no need to open a starship. Yesterday I didn't know what to train, so I started the starship. Soon. Just arrived at the training ground. Sure enough, it's not just Zian. Zhou Feiming and the others were all driving star shuttles. For this kind of short-distance voyage, the Star Shuttle must be more comfortable and convenient. But their Star Shuttles are all very good, costing several million, and even some of Zhou Feiming's starships are ultra-luxury models that cost tens of millions. No matter how bad it is, it's still the kind that costs millions. This is normal. There are really very few poor people who can come here. Even poor people cannot afford to come here. Even if it's Zian. Being worth tens of billions in cash is not just for fun. It's just that he won't spend the money on this, that's all. Zian. How did you sleep yesterday? Looks like you're in pretty good shape today. Haha, Zian, what are you talking about? What kind of miscellaneous brand is this? This brand of Star Shuttle is not worthy of your status, Zian. Haha. Just came here. This group of classmates. He immediately greeted me warmly. They seemed to be very familiar with each other. Seeing Zian's Bentley Star Shuttle, he was even more unabashedly teasing. Just teasing. None of them were stupid enough to think that Zian couldn't even afford a Star Shuttle, several million for their level. It's not a lot of money at all. A random task can cost tens of millions or hundreds of millions. Zian smiled helplessly. I am poor and can't afford such a good Star Shuttle. Besides, if it's just for transportation, why buy such a good one? Everyone laughed, and Lunini even blinked her eyes and suddenly said, Zian, how about I give you a Star Shuttle? The same style as mine, how about it? As soon as she said this, everyone suddenly became quiet. A pair of eyes wandered back and forth between Zian and Lunini, each showing ambiguous expressions. Zian smiled softly and declined calmly, thank you, but that's not necessary. Lunini smiled and did not continue talking. Everyone is an adult. I can understand both the inside and outside of the words. She knew that Zian must have understood what she wanted to express. And Zian refused, which proved that he didn't like him. Li Hao, naturally, he won't bother with it anymore. Of course Zian wouldn't say anything. One thing to say, Lunini has a decent figure except that she has a decent figure. Everything else is inferior to those girls except Taimei. I have been staying with Qin Fuyue, Hu Qiqi, Miao Xiaomi, Bai Xiaoyuan, Hai Tang, and Lu Yuyu for a long time. Zian's vision. It will naturally improve. Ordinary girls will definitely look down on her. What's more, how could a good man like me, Zian, be so easily with a woman I don't know very well? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. While talking and laughing, Chongting also came. Everyone immediately stopped talking and laughing. Today, individual combat training and evaluation will be conducted. It was used by a few people whose results were not very satisfactory yesterday. Today is quite exciting. When I heard Chongting's first words, those students who were still sharpening their knives and full of fighting spirit, the expressions on their faces instantly froze. Immediately afterwards, each one looks like a frosted eggplant. Instantly wilted, Chongting scanned the audience and said calmly, in personal battles, you will fight me one-on-one. Yes, I heard that right. Personal combat training, I will be your opponent personally. You will be injured, seriously injured, or even close to death. But don't worry, I will try my best to control it and not kill you. And you want to pass? It's very simple. You just need to persist for 1 minute under my attack. As long as you persist for 1 minute, you will be given a passing grade. Chongting's words made everyone who was so complacent a second ago become dumbfounded. He looked at the expressionless Chongting as if he had seen a ghost. This is crazy. Is it definitely for training and not to deliberately mess with them? What a joke. Chongting, that is such a strong god of war level. And he is also a high-grade god of war powerhouse. They are just war kings, some of them. It's just a war commander. How to fight this? What a beating. Can you hold on for 1 more minute? It's a blessing to be able to persist in one move without dying. Everyone's expression suddenly changed. Because Chongting has made it clear. There is a chance of death in this kind of training. Suddenly, one by one, he put away all his thoughts of joking and looked extremely solemn. Zian's expression also became serious. This training is more difficult, more dangerous, and more terrifying than I imagined. Okay, without further ado, hurry up? Chongting asked calmly. However, this time, but not a single person came forward. Everyone, including Zhou Feiming, lowered their heads, looking a little unnatural. Chongting 740 was unmoved and had no emotions such as disappointment. This situation. He has seen countless. I have even seen people quit the training camp directly because of fear of death. And these people are not a minority. How to describe it? The gap between the two sides can be described in the most vivid way. It's not the difference between children and adults. It's not even the difference between a child and an adult holding a knife. It's about how a child with bare hands can hold on for a minute against someone holding a fully automatic rifle. This is no longer a hell level. It's a desperate level of difficulty. Common sense. It's absolutely impossible to do. But genius, the challenge is impossible. No one was seen speaking. Zian walked directly out of the crowd and walked towards the opposite side of Chongting. Chongting's eyes suddenly flashed with appreciation, and his indifferent tone became a little gentler. You want to be the first one to come? You are only at the War Master level, and you are only at the first level. But you only need to hold on for 30 seconds under my hand, and I will consider you to have passed. But it's also more dangerous and the risk of death is higher, so are you sure you want to be the first to try? Zian smiled. Teacher Chong, you said it was as if my last attempt would no longer be dangerous. Isn't the level of danger the same? In that case, what's the difference between the first one and the last one? After hearing what Zian said, a rare smile appeared on Chongting's face. But he didn't say much. Yes, the difficulty is the same. But if you have, learned lessons from the past and the examples of people in front of you, those who will undergo individual combat training and evaluation later will be mentally prepared. The winning rate will be higher. Theoretically speaking, the first one to conduct individual combat training and evaluation is definitely the most dangerous. Chongting nodded with satisfaction. Now that you have decided, let's get ready to start. Finished, Chongting waved his hand. Immediately, a watermelon-sized ball flew quickly in the sky. The 6 cameras on it recorded all the battles between the two in all directions. When the battle is over, it will be automatically uploaded to the intelligent optical computer. Chongting will then give a score. The intelligent optical computer will then decide whether the score can be passed based on Zian's performance. In general, if the intelligent optical brain does not agree with the score Chongting gives for the first time, it will directly give his own score. If Chongting is dissatisfied with the score of the intelligent optical computer, he can request a review. Later, more senior instructors and even deputy battalion commanders will evaluate and give the final score. Anyway, we will ensure absolute fairness and justice to the greatest extent while being compatible with the personal teaching freedom of each teacher and instructor. After that, Chongting stretched out his hand and gestured to Su Zian, saying, "You go first. I will not use any weapons, you are free to use any weapons you want." Su Zian also doesn't write ing. With a clang sound, he pulled out the Tang Dao from his back. Chongting did not say what weapons Suan could not use or what protection he could not achieve. Because of the huge gap in strength, these are of no use. For example, Su Zian is wearing T-97 ultra-thin space armor. This T-97 ultra-thin space armor, it can indeed withstand a full blow from the captain of the deep space ship, that is, a warrior of the War Emperor level. But still the same sentence. The armor can block it, but the vibration wave generated by the attack may not be able to block it. Not to mention a god of war level warrior. Chongting said it was a full blow. That will definitely restrain his strength and suppress it to a certain extent. Otherwise, I will really go all out. Even if the armor is not broken. He was also killed by the vibration wave. Needless to say, weapons. The anti-hydrogen pistol is very powerful. There is a high probability that it will only leave a small scar on Chongting's skin. The physical strength of the god of war level warriors has exceeded the structure of ordinary people. FFLX. Chongting didn't care about these methods at all. Su Zian will not use these methods as his trump cards, because they are useless. #K. Use your strongest strength and your strongest fighting method. Melee combat with a knife. That's the only key to victory. Think of this. Su Zian took a deep breath, held the knife in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "Teacher Chong, I'm ready." Chongting nodded, then, "Let's start." The moment his voice just fell, his entire body disappeared in an instant as if teleporting. It turned into a phantom and rushed toward itself at a terrifying speed that was difficult to discern with the naked eye. Su Zian's eyes were like lightning. Countless life and death fights, countless death experiences. It gave Su Zian a sixth and seventh sense of transcendent combat intuition and reaction. Although Chongting's figure and attack route are completely invisible. However, countless fights and deaths made Su Zian reflexively jump to the right. While jumping, he slashed down with his sword towards the open space on the left. When? There was a crisp sound, accompanied by a sound of surprise, and Chongting appeared in the originally empty open space as if he had appeared out of thin air. However, he saw his fist deflecting Su Zian's knife, making a crisp sound. Then he looked at Su Zian with a face full of surprise and uncertainty, and his eyes were full of shock. I was really shocked. He was 10,000% certain that with Su Zian's current strength, it was absolutely impossible to capture his attack trajectory and route, but Su Zian managed to avoid his own attack. Not only did he avoid it, but he also took advantage of the situation and slashed at an empty place. What does this mean? This means Su Zian lacks strength, but his combat consciousness and combat experience are incredibly strong. Yes. Bizarre. Originally, Chongting was thinking of directly defeating Su Zian with one move. Because of the first individual battle training, he has been teaching since then. Even those geniuses. He has never failed, no matter who it is, he will fail with every move. But now this scene was far beyond his expectation. Chongting's eyes gradually brightened, staring at Su Zian as if he was seeing a peerless treasure. The next second. Ready! Chongting's voice fell, and this time, he quickly attacked Su Zian again. Look at Su Zian again, although he was not attacked by Chongting just now. However, the opponent casually punched his Tang Dao and the terrifying force made his jaw go numb. The gap between the two sides. It's really too big. It's so big that it can't be compensated by combat experience, combat awareness, and combat skills. Good thing Su Zian can't do anything else. I have experienced countless battles with this person, no matter how terrifying the scene is. There were even many times when he was tortured by the Inhumans or bugs, he found the right opportunity to turn defeat into victory. That kind of perseverance in the face of danger, that kind of calmness in the face of great terror. Absolutely, absolutely, not something ordinary people can imagine. So, when you see the other party attacking again, Zian's expression didn't change at all. His eyes swept across calmly, and with his terrifying fighting consciousness, he squatted down quickly this time, and stabbed upward with the Tang Dao sword in his hand. The moment he squatted down, a phantom as fast as lightning flashed past his head, and Zian dodged the blow. This is not the point. The point is, when I looked again, Chongting once again appeared directly opposite Zian as if teleporting. I don't know when. The tip of the knife was just less than an inch away from his neck. Then Chongting grabbed the back of the knife with one hand. Chongting's whole person. He just lowered his head and stared at Zian. Fundus. It flashed as if he had seen a ghost, incredible, unbelievable, exciting colors. Just like admiring a piece of beautiful jade. A piece of peerless gem, slow to say. In fact, the two sides started fighting until now. The whole process takes less than 3 seconds. Everything happened in these 3 seconds. But Chongting, a teacher who has seen many talents, was extremely surprised. Originally he thought, yesterday's practice. It should be Zian's peak. It should also be Zian's strongest point. But now, at this moment, only then did I realize that it wasn't that at all. A battle. That's Zian's peak, that's his strongest point. He is a god of war level warrior, and he was also a top evil genius back then. On the battlefield, killed countless enemies. Perhaps his personal combat strength is not as good as his Star Wars strength. But to say how weak he is, that is absolutely impossible. But now, he was truly stunned. Compared to his shock, Zhou Feiming, Lu Nini, and other classmates breathed a sigh of relief. Because they are not Zian, they are not fighting Chongting in person. In addition, their strength is at the War King level at best, and their vision is limited. In fact, there is nothing special about Zian's 2 dodges or even attacks. In their view, Chongting must have restrained most of his strength and suppressed his strength to around the War Emperor level. These War Kings. Chongting should also be suppressed at the War Emperor level. If it is like this, if you stick to it for a few minutes, there will be absolutely no problem. See Zian. They suddenly felt that they could do it again. I was also relieved. Just say it. Let's just talk about training camps. With this type of training, very few people can pass it, right? Think of this. A relaxed smile suddenly appeared on the faces of Zhou Feiming and others. Zian can do it. They have no reason. Cultivation should be Zian's strength. However, it seems that Zian's personal performance is not bad at the moment. Then we must continue to have a good relationship with Zian. This is truly a genius. This way. Chongting was stunned, but Zian would not be stunned. Seeing Chongting stunned, Zian's eyes flashed, and without drawing the knife, he directly raised his foot and swept it towards Chongting's waist like a long whip. The whistling wind finally woke up Chongting. Seeing that Zian not only did not take advantage of this opportunity to escape, but also delayed time. Instead, they counterattacked him extremely bravely. This psychological quality and mentality made Chongting's eyes flash with deep admiration. But appreciation is appreciation, and Dongting will not let it go. Instead of letting go, he decided to intensify his attack on Zian. In this way, it will be more conducive to Zian's cultivation. No more hesitation. Lift one of your legs at will to resist the whip. The other hand that wasn't holding the back of Tang Dao struck Zian's chest with a fierce palm. There was actually a sound of breaking through the air, which shows that the power of his palm is definitely not low. It is to cause maximum damage to Zian while ensuring that Zian's life will not be killed with one palm. Well done. However, Zian seemed to have expected Changting's attack. In other words, what is waiting in Zian is the same attack from Changting. With a loud shout, he didn't pay any attention to Changting's blow, but moved his body slightly to the left. Make sure Changting's palm doesn't hit his heart, as long as it doesn't hit the heart or break your heart instantly. So it doesn't matter whether Changting's blow controlled the force, or it was a full blow without controlling the force. Even if he punched Zian directly through the chest. With the space armor and Zian's current physical strength, Zian is confident that he can survive. As long as you can't die, then. After shifting his body to the left, Zian ignored it. Directly let go of the hand holding Tang Dao. Because I can't take it out. Then, under Changting's shocked eyes, Zian withstood the blow. The right chest was completely dented by this palm. Even the right side of Zian's back suddenly bulged several inches. The sound of cracking bones is disturbing to the scalp. Zian spurted out a mouthful of bright red blood, and Zian deliberately sprayed it all over Changting's face. It seems that this scene is also included in Zian's calculations. Take advantage of the moment when Changting subconsciously closed his eyes due to this mouthful of blood. Zian suddenly hugged Changting's waist, turned around, like a slippery loach, hugged him directly from the front, rotated to Changting's back, and hugged him tightly. The moment she hugged him, she suddenly ignored the injury on her right chest that was almost punctured. She opened her mouth and without hesitation, bit Changting's neck aorta viciously. This way of fighting, Zian has experienced countless times in the systematic battle simulation. Whenever he faces enemies who are much stronger than him, he always adopts this attack method. A real life-threatening move. As for the injury, he doesn't care at all. As long as you don't die, then we will keep fighting and keep fighting. Use all possible means to fight. The icy gaze, the biting murderous intent, and even the expression that was too cold to be what a human being should have made Changting, a dignified god of war powerhouse, tremble in his heart. This moment, Changting didn't even seem to be training students, but facing a real enemy. A real enemy who will either kill you or me. Even at such a moment, a thought came to Changting's mind. Could this Zian really be his life and death enemy? Or maybe this Zian is from the Inhumans or the insects. Otherwise, with that look in his eyes, does he really want to kill himself and fight to the death with himself? Seeing that Zian's blood-covered teeth were about to bite his neck, Changting's expression changed. His right hand instantly let go of Tang Dao, and Dang's palm sealed his position as fast as lightning. It happened to block Zian's teeth. After resisting Zian's bite, his body shook hard. Normally, a god of war level warrior could shake Zian down easily. However, Zian seemed to have been with him forever, hugging him tightly and desperately. Even though he had just shaken like this and heard the sound of several bone cracks, Zian felt as if he was not the one injured at all. Without blinking, he opened his mouth and bit the edge of Changting's palm fiercely. Please give me flowers. One mouthful. Used all his strength. Teeth. It is the hardest organ in human beings, especially the teeth of biological warriors, which are weapons. Zian, who had been strengthened for several years, actually bit the skin of Changting's palm with one bite, and with another force. A trace of blood, with a fishy sweetness, flowed into Zian's mouth. Zian's teeth can easily crush steel bars. Now it has only bitten the skin of Changting's palm. You can imagine how powerful the physical body of the god of war level powerhouse is. Hiss. The pain in his palm made Changting quickly retract his palm subconsciously, and Zian bit Changting's neck artery with lightning speed. Hold. Changting was also angry. He felt the teeth at his neck slowly piercing his skin. He had a wolfish expression on his face and suddenly hit Zian on the back with his backhand. When a person attacks the back with his backhand, the force cannot be too great because it is against the joints. But even so, bang! Click! There was a muffled sound, followed by the sound of broken bones. Zian's pelvis was directly shattered. Under such horrific pain and injuries, Changteng was horrified to discover. Zian bit his teeth on his neck. Instead of relaxing at all, he tightened his teeth even harder. From the corner of Changteng's eyes, I even saw that Zian's eyes were not always cold and emotionless after being hit so hard. Those eyes. Indifferent. Not like a human being. More like a devil coming out of hell. Yes. He is like a devil coming out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood and hell. Damn it. Feeling Zian's teeth, he penetrated a few more times and was about to bite his aorta. Changteng's expression changed wildly, and his eyes became even fiercer. This time, he directly raised his fist and smashed it hard at the left leg of Zian's legs that were tightly wrapped around his waist. Click. With the familiar, harsh, and mind-numbing sound of bone breaking, Zian's left leg showed an irregular and weird bend. But still not loose. Changteng's eyes became even fiercer. He raised his hand again and hit the calf bone of Zian's other leg hard. Click. Haven't let go yet. The calf bone was broken. But Zian's thigh and leg bones were not broken. Still tightly bound. This time, Changteng was really stunned. Inadvertently, out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly caught a glimpse of Zian's eyes again. This moment, Changteng's heart beat wildly. What kind of eyes are they? Indifferent, cold, cruel, bloodthirsty, and crazy. That kind of endless madness. Pfft. Accompanied by a slight sound. A large amount of blood spurted out from Changteng's neck. This touch of red. Changteng was silent. Zhou Feiming and others were frightened and had been stunned for a long time. It also frightened the students from other classes who were attracted by the fighting here, one by one. Watching this scene in extreme horror. There were thousands of people in the audience. This moment, silence fell. The needle drop can be heard loudly. Pain. Zian has long been immune. It's not that he can't feel pain. His perception of pain is exactly the same as everyone else's. But it is no exaggeration to say that his tolerance for pain exceeds that of anyone in the world. Countless deaths. Being tortured and killed countless times. His tolerance for pain has long been unable to leave even the slightest impression on his state of mind. The ribs were comminutedly fractured, and even the broken ribs penetrated the internal organs. The pelvic bones, lower leg bones were broken, and even the bones pierced the skin. This is unbearable severe pain for ordinary people, but for Zian. Where are you? He is a man who has truly experienced the most extreme pain in the world. Not just once or twice. Facing Changteng's attack, Zian really didn't even blink an eyelid as he frantically bled Changteng. But that's about it. The huge gap in strength made it impossible for Zian to do more attacks that could hurt Changteng. Fig. That's enough. Changteng did not continue the attack. Continuing to attack, the injuries he suffered were nothing more than that. However, there is really no need to continue attacking Zian. 333, because not only was he attacked by Zian, he was also injured. And he could tell. Even if Zian is beaten to death, it was impossible for Zian to let go. Even if all limbs are broken. Even if only one head is left. But as long as Zian is still alive, he will never let go. There was silence for a long time. Changteng gently patted Zian's head, took a deep breath, and said with a hint of panic that he didn't even notice, "Okay. Relax, let's get closer together," following his words. Zian then let go, grinning silently at Changteng with his mouth full of blood. It seemed that the indifference to life and the murderous aura that was so strong and substantial just now were not the same as him. But for some reason, Chongting felt a little panicked when he saw Su Zian's look. It's hard for him to imagine. If Su Zian and he were equally strong men, if Su Zian and him are really enemies of life and death, what a terrifying opponent he will face. But even knowing that Su Zian is his student, I also know that Su Zian can't beat him, at least now, he definitely can't. Whenever he thinks of Su Zian's crazy and indifferent eyes just now, Chongting's heart will cast a shadow. That moment, regardless of the strength of both sides, he really felt that Su Zian wanted to kill him and kill him. He really felt the death threat brought by Su Zian. Although this is just a feeling, Su Zian can't kill him even if he stands here. But that feeling of death cannot be eliminated no matter what. On the other hand, Su Zian, even though the right sternum, pelvis, and calf bones were all comminuted fractures, the bone dregs punctured the skin and made it bloody. But Su Zian seemed not to feel it at all. A nonchalant expression on his face. This injury, it doesn't even count. Su Zian didn't care much about his internal organs being crushed one by one, let alone this kind of thing. All he could think about now was the battle with Chongting just now. Perhaps the battle was very brief. Nothing seems to be gained from it. But there are so many things that can really be obtained. Just say it. Just a short battle with Chongting, but it made Su Zian see his many shortcomings. And when facing a super strong person and the strength gap between the two sides is too big, can I have a better way to deal with it? As long as he overcomes these shortcomings. So the benefits to his growth and progress are unimaginable. At this time, a warm light shone on him. The therapeutic light formed by the high-end repair medicine and hemostatic medicine quickly stabilized Su Zian's injury and slowly began to restore it. He turned around and saw a treatment drone treating him. Turn around and look again. Another treatment drone was also treating the wound on Chongting's neck. At this time, Su Zian finally saw the surroundings. I don't know when, but they were full of people. One by one, they looked at him with strange, horrified, and even fearful eyes. Yes. Zhou Feiming's classmates. Looking at Su Zian's eyes. Really full of fear and fear. It's not fear or fear of Su Zian's strength. Although there is a reason for this, it is definitely not the main reason. What really frightens them is Su Zian's ferocity, ruthlessness, lifelessness, and indifference to life that comes out of a mountain of corpses, a sea of blood, and hell. Su Zian, who is usually peaceful and amiable, forms the most striking contrast. Even they doubt. If he had a grudge against Su Zian, would Su Zian really not hesitate to kill them? He is just a life-threatening lunatic. Perhaps this is the only way to explain their impression of Su Zian. Turn around and look again. Chongting took a deep look at Su Zian. However, he didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his left wrist and scored Su Zian directly. 80, an incredible score was actually passed by the intelligent optical brain. Everyone, at this moment, opened their eyes wide. Looking at this score stupidly. Silent for a long time. 80 points. What is the concept of 80%? Passing 60 points, 2-star treatment. 70% good, 3-star treatment. 80% excellent, 4-star treatment. Although this treatment can only be obtained by reaching 80% in Star Wars, individual battles, and cultivation. 18. This is just the beginning. I haven't really started training yet. It comes up to an excellent score of 80%. How terrifying. Just say it. In the past, the vast majority of students with 4-star treatment received it in the second half of the training camp, or even when they were about to graduate. Only a very small number of them received 4-star treatment in the first few months. However, that was only after several months of training, like Su Zian. It's only the second day of camp. I got an excellent score of 80 points. It's simply outrageous. Even the only super genius who received 4.5 stars back then, It was only after training for almost half a year that I received the 4.5-star treatment. And that super genius got 80 points in the middle of the second month of the training camp. Even this kind of super genius only got an excellent score of 80 points in the middle of the second month. It is not difficult to imagine how outrageous the record set by Zian is now. Most critical. Zian is the destroyer captain. A huge training ground. No one spoke. Finally. Still a familiar voice resounded throughout the audience, waking everyone up. Okay, let's disperse, let's go to training. A rough voice sounded, and everyone turned to look. I don't know when, the deputy battalion commander Zian came here. I don't know when. Just like this, the body is floating in the air, looking down. After saying this, he took a deep look at Zian and even nodded towards Zian. Then he turned around and left here. Following Zian's words, the others dispersed one after another under the leadership of their respective teachers. But before leaving, almost everyone would look at Zian several times. Then he left with various complicated looks. The crowd dispersed. At this time, Zian recovered a lot under the treatment of medical radiation and struggled to stand up. Not to mention Changting. Even if there were medical rays from his injuries, he would be able to fully recover in an hour or two at most. What's more, with the medical ray, he was back to his original state in just a minute. Zian, please go and have a rest first. Changting's demeanor and tone when speaking to Zian were surprisingly polite. Of course you can go back to rest on your own, or you can go to the training camp hospital for the next treatment, which will get better faster. Zian smiled and said, It's okay, Teacher Chang. This little flesh injury won't affect anything. Changting was speechless. Zhou Feiming and others' eyes and mouth corners were twitching crazily. You care about this? What the hell kind of flesh wound? I'm crazy. Now, if you leave it to me, what state of serious injury would it take for 4.7 to be called serious injury? Was he beaten until only his head was left, and the whole body was seriously injured? Outrageous. It's so outrageous. Let's put it that way. After you love, we must lick it. You can't afford to offend such a ruthless person. It's true that you can't afford to offend. From now on, Zian, you will be a god in our class 26. Zhou Feiming and others were convinced. Completely convinced. Who in the right mind would provoke such a werewolf? I'm afraid I really don't know how to write the word deaf. What are your thoughts on this group of students? Zian can also guess a thing or two. But it was just a smile. He continued to digest what he had just gained from the battle while receiving treatment from the treatment drone. While waiting for the end of the individual combat training evaluation. But he didn't know it. Zian's name. And the results from his training evaluation yesterday and today. Like a plague. In an instant, it spread throughout the training camp, including the first hospital and the second hospital. Everyone knows the name Zian. The name. Also the first time. Appeared in the vision of these super geniuses throughout Jiuxiao Xinghai. Qianlong Star is the planet where the second academy of the Taiku Galaxy training camp is located. There are hundreds of thousands of students in total, 80,000 of whom are from the second academy. There are only 20,000 people in one hospital. The training methods of the second hospital are similar to those of the first hospital. But the intensity is not that strong, and the training intensity is not that high. For example, when people from the first hospital were in the training room, the mixture of heavenly materials and earthly treasures that spewed out was a very high-end formula. The one in the second courtyard is relatively ordinary, and the natural materials and treasures used are also more ordinary. But it's just comparing the second house with the first house. If the cultivation method of the second academy is put outside, it is also a proper ultra-high-end cultivation method. At this time, Class 66. The 5 girls are Qin Fuyue, Bai Xiaoyuan, Hu Qiqi, Miao Xiaomi, and Tai Mei. All in this class. Because they are from the same fleet, There will also be randomness in this aspect when the intelligent optical brains are divided into classes. At this moment, they had just finished personal combat training with a female Star Destroyer captain. Among the teachers and instructors, there are both men and women. For example, the female instructor who led them was a class full of girls. But even though they are all women, they are not merciful at all. Fight one battle at a time. All the girls were scarred, and the most serious one, Taime, suffered comminuted fractures of both legs and one hand. The treatment drone was treating her. Suddenly, "Oh my God! Is a Yuan so fierce?" A girl's exclamation reached everyone's ears. Everyone looked at each other. This girl with extremely scars all over her body obviously didn't care about her own situation. Holding up the optical brain watch, he exclaimed, "Look at the training camp chat forum." It was revealed above that a super fierce man appeared in the first hospital. A super strong man named Zian got a high score of 62 points in the training evaluation yesterday. Today's personal combat training evaluation, I got a terrifying score of 80 points. Oh my God, where does this fierce man come from? This is too awesome. The girl's incredible exclamation attracted everyone's attention. Even the female teacher who was about to call the next one up had a slightly stunned expression. Immediately he raised his optical brain watch to check. A woman's gossipy nature is irrespective of age or age. Even a woman as powerful as a void ship captain will still gossip when she should. As for Qin Fuyue and her daughters, they were discussing their battle experiences with each other. Hearing this sentence, several beautiful faces and one rough face like Li Kuei were all stunned for a moment. Immediately turn on the optical brain watch to check. As expected, when opening the training camp forum, the name Zian has been butchered above. There are thousands of replies to each post. And it's still increasing a lot. Each one expressed their amazement and disbelief. In fact, the content is similar to what the girl just said. At most, it will be described in more detail. But the result is the same, 62 practice points. A score of 80 points. Countless people are speculating. This Zian, I don't know what Star Wars strength is. As long as his Star Wars abilities aren't too bad. Even if you only need to get a passing score of 60 points. Then, Zian will also completely break the Taiku Galaxy training camp and become the fastest student in history to receive 2-star treatment. If it's true. This thing is so terrifying. To know. The current fastest record holder is the only super genius who received 4.5 stars back then, when he got 360 passing marks and received 2-star treatment. It was also 20 days later. So, if Zian really gets a 60 point in tomorrow's Star Wars training evaluation, doesn't it mean that Zian's talent? Even more talented than the original super genius who received 4.5 stars? Finally, Zian is even expected to receive the legendary 5-star treatment that no one has ever received? Of course. This guess was immediately rejected by countless people. Because in the eyes of most people, it is undeniable that Zian is very strong. But no matter how strong a person's talent is, there is a limit, right? You can't have all 3 talents in Star Wars, individual battles, and training, right? In their opinion, Zian should be the most talented fighter. Then cultivation of talent comes second. Star Wars talent. Worst. Although, even so, it is enough to illustrate the terrifying and powerful nature of Zian's talent. But to say that his Star Wars talent is still very strong, that must be impossible. Absolutely impossible. If it's true, do you want anyone left alive? Only Hu Chi-Chi and the other girls could not help but look at each other after reading it. Others don't know. Can they still know? Zian. Only Star Wars strength is the most powerful. If rated according to 10 stars, then Zian's Star Wars strength level is 10 stars. The individual combat strength level is a 5-star worker. The cultivation level is also 8-star. Why is it said that Zian has reached the level of 8 stars in cultivation? Very simple. The girls don't know anything else. One thing, they are extremely sure. Zian practices quickly. That's really fast, usually. There is no such thing as them who are practicing almost all the time. But the speed of cultivation is only faster than them. Zian may be slightly deficient in exercising the cultivation method. But in terms of cultivation speed, Zian is definitely the best. If it weren't for the fact that Zian's cultivation method is indeed not too powerful. As far as the speed of cultivation is concerned, it is not an exaggeration for Zian to achieve 9 stars. But anyway, Zian, the most powerful. Without a doubt, it's Star Wars. Zian's Star Wars is at an artistic level. Why give Zian a 10-star Star Wars rating? Very simple. Invincible at the same level. No matter who you call, no matter how talented this person is. As long as it is the same level as Zian. Then the loser can only be the other party. That's how powerful Zian's Star Wars talent is. During the assault ship era, it was already possible to kill a cruiser in 3 to 5 minutes. Zian in the destroyer era. On Star Wars. Incredibly powerful. So, that is to say, Zian, after completing the Star Wars training evaluation tomorrow, will he be the first to receive 2-star status? Will he also become the fastest person in history to receive 2-star treatment? Thinking of this, the delicate lips of the girls couldn't help but reveal a hint of expectant smile. There is also Taime with a bloody smile. Really? Looking forward to it. Zian is so strong and works so hard, we can't slack off. Meow Xiaomi suddenly said. Her words caused all the girls to nod in agreement. Zian is already so powerful, but still trying. They had read the post just now. Whether it was yesterday's training or today's personal training. Zian. They all tried their best. Even though Zian was so powerful, he still tried his best. Steffi. Is there any reason not to work harder? Think of this, Hu Chichi immediately said firmly, no matter. Come back to me later and continue soaking in the treasures of heaven and earth. Strive to achieve 4-star treatment as soon as possible, and be promoted to the first hospital. Anyway, I already owe Zian so much money. Then I'll owe him a little more. At worst, all the money I make in the future will belong to him. Yes. The difference between the first hospital and the second hospital. It's not a difference in talent. Actually, the talents of many geniuses in the second academy are even stronger than those in the first academy. The reason is that one is the first hospital and the other is the second hospital. The reason is simple. Second courtyard. It's already extremely expensive. One hospital, let alone one. Many geniuses from the second hospital came to the second hospital because they could not afford the fees in the first hospital. And in order to give these geniuses a better growth environment, the actual controller of Jiuxiao Xinghai, that is to say, the Jiuxiao Empire allocates a large amount of funds to the training camp every year. The purpose is to allow the top talents of the second academy to receive the best treatment. So, there is only one 4-star treatment in the second hospital. That is, you can be directly promoted to the first hospital and get 4-star treatment at the same time. 16 to 18, although the teaching resources and material resources are not as good as those of the first hospital, they can still get 4-star treatment in the second hospital. It can only be said that he is extremely talented. There must be no problem for such a top talent to receive the same 4-star treatment. Therefore, it actually starts when you get into training camp. The goals Zian has set for the girls, and the goals the girls have set for themselves. That is to achieve 4-star treatment as quickly as possible. Then be promoted to the first hospital and go find Zian. And all this, preferably before the second part of training. The first part of training, just in training camp. Part 2 training. Not surprisingly, definitely going out. By the time the girls followed Zian, there is a guarantee for each other. Safer too. After all, the real mortality rate. That's the second part of training. After listening to what Hu Qiqi and Miao Xiaomi said, Tai Mei, Bai Xiaoyuan, and Qin Fuyue nodded heavily. Zian worked so hard. What reason do they have not to work harder? If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. The name Zian spread throughout the training camp on the second day, to the point where everyone knows it. And at this time, in the training ground of the first academy, although Zian is miserable, but it also made Zhou Feiming and others seem to see a scene where they could do it too. After all, even if Zian is very strong, he is comparable to a warrior at the king level. They are still truly king-level warriors. Isn't that just risking your life? No one can do it. Thinking of this, Zhou Feiming was about to speak when he was the first to appear behind Zian. Immediately, another war king level spoke first. I come. The man stepped forward confidently and stood opposite Chongting. Chongting looked at each other, calmly. The man took out his weapon and shouted, I'm ready. The moment his voice just fell, Chongting appeared in front of him like a ghost. This person didn't even have time to react, and flew out like a kite that was out of line. The sound of cracking bones. People are in the air. A large mouthful of blood mixed with broken internal organs spurted out. There was another muffled sound of bang, and the man fell directly to the ground. He was already unconscious, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead. But it is not difficult to tell from his sunken belly. In this situation, if emergency treatment is not carried out, death will undoubtedly occur. The treatment drone flew forward quickly. While radiating treatment rays, 2 mechanical arms deep in the air pulled him away and flew towards the training camp hospital as fast as possible. Chongting's face was expressionless. The other students were stunned when he saw Chongting's eyes sweeping toward him. All of them suddenly trembled. $71. 14F. Isn't that the case? They can tell Chongting's speed, agility, and strength just now. When Dewey fought against Zian, he was slightly stronger. This is normal. After all, this man is a warrior-level warrior, and Zian is only a warrior-level warrior. This is fair. But results for both sides. But it's completely different. Finally, Chongting gave a score of 7 points, and passed directly. An 80 points. A 7 points. Zhou Feiming and others no longer wanted to talk. Zie, it's just too big. In particular, when this time, from the next class, there were sudden bursts of exclamations. Everyone looked at the sound. But he saw that it was a student who was too seriously injured and could not resist. See here. Everyone's expressions changed, and their moods became much heavier. Death in training. Not surprising. After all, only training of this intensity can be of great help in improving strength. But on the second day, a person died due to training. This is something no one expected. Training camp training, more terrifying than imagined. After, Zhou Feiming took a deep breath and went on stage. This time, he will no longer be so naive as to think that if Zian can achieve that effect, so can he. In fact, this is exactly the case. When he was beaten unconscious, he didn't even touch the corner of Chongting's clothes. I was getting beaten the whole time. And don't talk for a minute. Didn't even last 10 seconds. He is the most talented and powerful student in their class, other than Zian. But Zian not only persisted for 3 full minutes, it even caused harm to Chongting. The difference. It suddenly became extremely obvious. And finally, he scored 11 points. It's almost the same as his cultivation score. Gap. Too big. This time, the look in Zian's eyes seemed to be different. The morning's training ended like this. The entire day today was dedicated to personal combat training. In the morning, direct battle. Afternoon. It was up to Changting to teach everyone about some of the problems and shortcomings that arose during the battle. Noon. Zian, who had recovered somewhat, went directly to the hospital and went to the medical warehouse. The whole journey only took more than an hour, and he recovered from all his injuries. We had another meal at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The study class also officially started. I have to say that the teaching level of these instructors in the training camp is indeed quite good. This is like a top student and a professional teacher. Even if the top student has a higher diploma than a professional teacher, the teaching, it may not be comparable to others. The same goes for the instructors at the training camp. Perhaps the elders in these students' families have more powerful presences. But when it comes to teaching, it is naturally inferior to teachers in these majors. Changting gave an extremely detailed and easy-to-understand roll call of the problems that occurred in each person's battle, and everyone had a feeling of enlightenment. Including Zian. He found Changting's teaching is different from systematic teaching. Systematic teaching will be more direct, point out your problems directly, and even teach you how to do it. But Changting will not only tell you this, but he will also explain why you have such problems and why you should adopt such methods to make up for these shortcomings. To put it simply, systematic teaching will be simpler, more direct, and precise enough. The teaching in the training camp will not be so comprehensive and detailed, but it will give you a feeling of sudden understanding. You can even draw inferences from one example and solve it in other ways next time you encounter a similar problem. Can't say who is good or bad. But the two are combined. It must be extremely huge. The most important is, Zian is fighting against a god of war level warrior. Things to learn from. Not much less. All day long. Just like this, it passed quickly without realizing it. Everyone has gained a lot. And Zian, as soon as he got home, he couldn't wait to enter the battle simulation. Today, he also gained a lot. Now I want to immediately engage in a real life and death fight in the battle simulation. Thoroughly integrate what you have learned today and turn it into knowledge that truly belongs to you. Realistic and systematic combat simulation, the combination of the two will continue to improve Zian's progress. It will reach a terrifying point. Early the next morning, Zian got up refreshed. Today will be the most important part. Star Wars Training Assessment. The era of the universe and interstellar space, Star Wars, is the real theme song. A battle is just the icing on the cake. Star Wars is the most important one. This is why Zian spends more time conducting Star Wars simulations. How long does it take to simulate? From high to low, they are: Star Wars simulation, evolution simulation, battle simulation, design simulation. The Star Wars simulation is the one he has performed the most and cost the most wealth. Next is evolution simulation. Evolutionist. It is undeniable that it is very important. But in the future, Zian will become a peerless powerhouse who can suppress the universe. Rather than a super evolver who is not too strong and specializes in evolving starships for people. Combining the two and reaching the top at the same time is Zian's plan. The first purpose of an evolutionist is always to serve his own ranking. Think no more. Finished breakfast in a hurry. Then he drove the Brilliance and flew towards the training ground. Today's training ground is not where it was yesterday. Today's Star Wars training requires a large area. So when we arrived at this training ground, the surrounding area was very empty. A combat area of tens of thousands square kilometers is enough. Regarding this matter, all the students still came. Brother Sue, here you go. Brother Sue, I hope you can get 2-star treatment today. Haha, Brother Sue, I'm afraid you don't know that you are famous now. There are many female students openly showing love to you. 2-star treatment, Brother Sue is a must today, okay? Today's students seem to be a little more enthusiastic than yesterday. Even the title changed from Sue Zian to Brother Sue. Can only say, no matter what era, they are all realistic and respect the strong. Sue Zian also smiled and greeted them. As for being famous, Sue Zian naturally knew it too. Even if he didn't know it himself, Qin Fuyue and his daughters had already started chatting in the group. Although not on a planet, but we are in contact with each other every day. Sue Zian, mainly, from Nuada, wanted to know their progress. So far, Sue Zian is quite satisfied with their performance. 9 in the morning. Chongting still arrived on time. This time, Chongting still came here alone and drove his star destroyer. See here. All expressions changed wildly. Combined with yesterday's actions, they suddenly realized a problem. Today's Star Wars training assessment. Could it be that Chongting still ended up personally? Star Destroyer. Fight cruisers and destroyers? Are you sure this is not a joke on us? Is this training not particularly abusive? Everyone's expressions froze on their faces. Only Sue Zian. He has no worries or fears. Because there was another brilliant ship, he couldn't die no matter what. Don't worry about the brilliant number being blown up. In this case, there is nothing to be afraid of. Only excitement. In reality, there has never been a true battle with the brilliance. He has never really seen in reality where his Star Wars limits are. Now, there seems to be a chance. Just right, he also wanted to take a look. My own true Star Wars limit. To what extent? On the training ground. The students stood up neatly. Chongting stood at the front of the crowd and said in a deep voice, I believe you have already guessed it. Star Wars training, what kind of training method is it? That's right, just fight me. Also, the same goes for fighting individuals. Destroyer, you only need to survive my attack for 30 seconds, and the battle damage is no less than 80%, and you will be considered qualified. Cruiser, you only need to survive my attack for 60 seconds, and the battle damage is no less than 80%, and you will be considered qualified. And when I fight against destroyers, my combat intensity will be controlled at the battleship level. Of course, it's just the intensity of the battle against you, that is, the intensity of the attack. But the attack power is the same. I can't change this. However, you don't have to worry too much. The main gun will not attack you, and the secondary gun will not hit your cockpit. The mortality rate is there, but it's not high. So now, who comes first? After Chongting finished speaking, classmates, first you look at me and I look at you. Finally, everyone looked at Sue Zian. Even Chongting. They all looked at Sue Zian, their eyes full of expectation. Actually, Chongting is also looking forward to it. Looking forward to today's Star Wars training, whether Sue Zian can be as violent as yesterday. Even if you can't. As long as it can achieve a passing score, it must be a good talk. Moreover, having such outstanding students under his hands, he can also gain a lot of benefits as a teacher. If there are good students under his command, the teacher will be of no benefit. For 123, these teachers and instructors may not necessarily do their best. This is the same as having a commission on sales. Seeing these looks, Sue Zian smiled. Whether it's the first or the last, it doesn't matter to him. Anyway, give it your all. Thinking of this, he immediately walked towards his starship. The other students also hurriedly boarded their starships to watch the battle later. Soon, starships took off one after another. Zhou Feiming and his starships were far away, and in the middle was Chongting and Sue Zian's brilliance. Chongting's voice sounded from the communicator, "Say if you are ready." Sue Zian had nothing to prepare, so he said directly, "I'm ready." Almost in the next second, he entered a state of concentrated combat. It feels like being on a simulated battlefield in a Star Wars simulation. This moment, Changting is no longer his instructor, but the Inhumans and insects. Only by treating Changting as an alien or insectoid, Zian, only then can you bring out 200% of your own strength. And at the moment when Zian's voice just fell, he showed no mercy and launched an attack on Zian. Even if you have an extremely outstanding student under your command, you will gain a lot of benefits. But it is impossible to let it get high scores. There is an intelligent optical computer watching next to it. Even if he releases the water and Zian gets a longer survival time and an intelligent optical brain, it is impossible to give Zian a passing grade. So there is no case of cheating. So, as soon as they came up, they directly launched an attack on the Brilliance by crushing Zian. This is also the first time that Zian has faced an attack from a Star Destroyer. Star Destroyer, the maximum length is 6,999.9 meters. One can imagine, how many weapons can such a behemoth carry? Just say it. Even the most ordinary Star Destroyer has enough firepower to rival an army. And the total number of starships in a legion exceeds 5,000. Is the firepower strong or not? It's not just the number of weapons. It's also a series of factors such as the weapon's power, rate of fire, coverage, etc. Anyway, even though Changting has suppressed his strength to a very low level, but from Zian's perspective, the shells poured towards him like dark clouds covering the sky. Under normal circumstances, any destroyer captain, no, even a cruiser captain, or even a battleship captain, everyone is desperate when encountering such terrifying firepower. 18. Exactly. What Changting met was Zian, a super weirdo. Why do you say that? Yes. Zian has indeed never fought a Star Destroyer. But it does not mean that Zian has not faced similar fierce firepower. Systematic Star Wars simulation, all simulated, are the most realistic battlefield environment. As Zian becomes stronger and stronger. Today, the Star Wars simulation conducted by Zian is no longer a small-scale battle in the form of a small team during the era of reconnaissance ships and frigates. Every Star Wars simulation he does now, they are all in the collision between multiple legions on both sides. The most ever. The total force invested by both sides exceeded 70,000 starships. Even if Zian faced only a small number of shells. But it will definitely not be any less powerful than Changting. Zian. In the true sense, he is a man who has experienced countless bullets and bullets. Undeniable, Changting's firepower is very fierce. 18. I want to hold Zian down for 30 seconds. Absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible, unless Changting showed his full strength. Otherwise, 30 seconds, absolutely no problem. BBCH. Even last longer. Facing the shells that blocked the sky and the sun, Zian felt extremely calm. No panic at all. This kind of scene. He has been through too much. He could always find a small gap in the dense shells and then dodge. To avoid in the most extreme way. Because Changting's shells shoot, even if the rate of fire is very, very fast. But there are always intervals, not continuous shooting. And there is also space between weapons. You can always find an area to hide in. As long as you can find it. It's Zian's time to show off. So, next, the students present, including the teacher Changting. It also includes the immortal level instructors who patrol the training ground to prevent accidents. They all saw a scene that shocked their souls. See you. A destroyer that was only 899.9 meters long was in a hail of bullets. It's like taking a leisurely stroll in the garden. It seems that he didn't do much to avoid it, he just moved to the side from time to time, or moved up or down from time to time. But it happened to be this kind of avoidance that didn't seem to be avoided, but the result stunned. Of the hundreds or thousands of shells, surprisingly few hit the brilliance. There are even more outrageous ones. Seeing that there were several artillery shells or locked missiles that could not be avoided. But just a few bursts of anti-aircraft fire. It turned out to be like this. Easily, all those artillery shells and missiles were blown up in the air. Thousands of artillery shells and missiles. The combined attacks on the brilliance, it turns out. Not even 10F*** king rounds. Although the power is terrifying. The energy shield of the brilliance was beaten into holes. But not broken after all. What shocked everyone the most was brilliant number. When ducking and moving to avoid. The cannonballs of the brilliance never stopped attacking, and every cannonball, all impartial, hit Changting's energy shield facing the cockpit. But these are not the most outrageous. The most outrageous thing is, originally, Changting didn't care about Su Zian's counterattack. He was still shocked by Su Zian's strange movements. Result: when an alarm came from his star crystal light brain, Tuan Ran woke up. Do not know when. His cockpit is facing the energy shield. It turns out, being forced, a hole the size of a thumb was made. Although only thumb size. But his is a star destroyer. What kind of power is this? Besides, what kind of accuracy is this? Out of thousands of shells, only 10 hit. Detonate artillery shells and missiles accurately in the air. More than a dozen rounds of main guns hit the same point. All these things combined. Abnormal Ting himself was stunned. The students below also saw their eyes popping out of their sockets. Including the immortal instructors patrolling the training ground. Their eyes suddenly opened wide one by one, and their mouths grew wide, as if they had seen a ghost. Who can tell me, what the hell is this destroyer? A destroyer. Under the firepower coverage of the Star Destroyer, there was not much damage. Instead, drilled a hole the size of a thumb in the opponent's Star Destroyer? Are you sure you're not kidding me about the universe? But the facts are right in front of us. Everyone was silent at this moment. Changting also fell silent. He no longer knows. What kind of monster is he teaching? But one thing is certain. Su Zian. It must be the most outrageous monster he has ever seen. Ordinary genius? No. This is the top talent, unparalleled talent, perhaps. Su Zian's individual talent is not the most powerful. But he has 3 talents, all of which have reached the genius level. Especially Su Zian's Star Wars talent. It has even reached the top level of genius. With the 3 talents added together, he is definitely a top talent. It is not an exaggeration to call him a peerless genius. In fact, we have reached this point. Everyone, including Changting, was certain of this. With the 2-star treatment, Zian didn't run away. That is because the cultivation performance has been greatly restricted. If the results of cultivation can keep up. That's really hard to say. The fastest 2-star treatment. The fastest Samsung treatment. Even the fastest 4-star treatment. After the last year of training, it is very possible to achieve unprecedented 5-star treatment. Not to mention 5-star treatment. But at least the 4.5-star treatment is gone. Since the establishment of the training camp, after so many years, will there finally be another super genius with a 4.5-star salary? Thoughts flashed through my mind. Changting's attacks are not slow. Instead, the attack became more rapid. Increased the intensity of the attack on Su Zian. Su Zian tried his best. This time, he really tried his best and tried his best. In a desperate way, he fought with Changting on the stars. The fastest dodge, the fastest attack, the most accurate interception and shooting, and the most outrageous prediction. Whether it was evading prediction or attacking prediction, Zian showed his incredible Star Wars ability. The terrifying talent. As a result, the instructors and students who were training around them once again gathered one after another. Watch in silence. Zian, they all were really silenced. Below. Lunini suddenly smiled bitterly. She finally understands. Why did Zian have no feedback on her active display of love yesterday? Both sides. Not on the same level at all. And it's not because she's not very good looking. Yes. She admitted that she did not look like a fairy. But she has a good figure. Still the top monster. Now it seems. It's not because of my appearance at all. This way, Chongting began to increase his attacks and also began to dodge. Zian's pressure suddenly increased. What's the difference? Chongting doesn't even need to display superb combat skills. Just the locking radar and prevention and control radar on his starship are all activated at full power. Zian gradually became helpless. The gap between the two sides. It's too big. The other side also began to use ultra-high light speed missiles. And the opponent's missiles and artillery shells all have stealth capabilities. It is equipped with a stealth function that even the brilliant purple and peerless quality locking radar cannot lock it. Zian can only rely on his own Star Wars skills and instincts to dodge and intercept. But without the assistance of the locking radar, Zian's dodge and interception suddenly dropped to a certain extent. In this level of fighting, the combat effectiveness is reduced. That's also fatal. No matter how Zian dodges. He tried his best. There were also hundreds of missiles and artillery shells attacking the Brilliance's hull. The energy shield collapsed instantly. The defensive armor was instantly hit with penetrating wounds, one after another. The damage to the Brilliance's hull is decreasing at a rate of almost 5% per second. Under Chongting's full attack, it only lasted less than 20 seconds. The damage to the Brilliance's hull exceeded 80%. Chongting's attack stopped. Keep going. There is a risk that the Brilliance may be blown up at any time. If the damage degree of a starship exceeds 50%, it is considered a high risk. More than 70% is an extremely high risk. More than 80% is an extremely high risk. The so-called high risk and ultra-high risk mean. It means that you may be blown up at any time. To put it simply, there is a very high probability of being blown up. As for the 90% damage level, basically, even if the opponent stops attacking, you may explode yourself if you drive the starship and move it. 80% is the limit. After all, the training camp is to train talents, not to suppress them. Chongting stopped attacking. Zian also stopped breathing. Just one word. Tired. More than 40 seconds in the front, plus almost 20 seconds in the back. Zian. I was stunned and persisted for a full minute. And don't look at it for just 1 minute. Every time you dodge, you go all out. The consumption of bioenergy is huge. Even if Zian doubles his biological energy, he always breaks through to the next level with his peak, but it still consumes a lot of bioenergy. Otherwise, leave others alone. I'm afraid the starship can still fight, but the biological energy is not enough. An all-out battle will always consume the most biological energy. If you don't go all out, you will lose even more miserably. Good thing. Zian persisted. The battle ends. This time, Chongting still didn't speak for a long time. Because of this moment. 2, also in a state of confusion. So that he even began to wonder, was he really a Star Destroyer captain? Damn. Star Destroyer captain, fight a destroyer. It actually took a full 63 seconds? Are you kidding me? Even if the main gun is not used, only 1/3 of the secondary battery is used. But In the next 20 seconds, he used 2/3 of his secondary guns. 2/3 of the Star Destroyer's secondary guns, 1/20th of the missiles, plus various attack methods. It took a full minute and 3 seconds to hit Zian's brilliance to 80% battle damage. The most outrageous thing is, his starship and energy shield also had a hole the size of a cigar. He then made a lot of interceptions. Unexpectedly, all of Zian's attacks were still not completely blocked. Still got attacked. Silence. Changting was silent. It wasn't until the intelligent optical brain reminded him for the 4th time that he finally woke up from the shock. Say nothing. I scored the score I thought I would. 88, only 2 points are missing, which is a super high score of 90 points. Once again it blinded everyone present. Their eyes, all filled with disbelief from the bottom of their hearts, looked towards the brilliance, which was being surrounded by 5 or 6 maintenance drones and undergoing maintenance. Asking for flowers. In his eyes, everyone was horrified. Zian's performance today. Zian's results today. Completely shattered the myths of the past. It completely shattered the common speculations. The guess is that Zian is the strongest in individual battles, second in cultivation, and the weakest in Star Wars. Turn out to be. In the individual battle that reached 80 points yesterday, Zian was not the strongest. Zian's strongest. What a Star Wars, the interstellar era of the universe. Star Wars is the absolute theme and kingly way. Almost all biological captains will spend all their money to build their own starships and strengthen their own starships. No doubt. Changting is also the strongest in Starship and Star Wars. It seems. The results Zian achieved today are not as eye-catching as yesterday. But you must know that Changting's Star Wars strength and his starship are much more powerful than his own. Under such circumstances, Zian is still a destroyer, a first-tier destroyer. It lasted a full 63 seconds. And he also counterattacked and punched a hole the size of a cigar in the energy shield of Changting's Star Destroyer. 0. When he originally made a hole the size of a thumb, Changting was already firing on all cylinders. But under such difficult circumstances, Zian still expanded his results. That's what's incredible. It is also at this time. Suddenly, a familiar voice, as if it were yesterday, once again reaches everyone's ears. But this time, the border battle is no longer about expelling everyone for training, but about Zian. There was also a bit of shock in Bianzhan's voice, and he said solemnly, Zian, congratulations on breaking the record for the fastest promotion and treatment in our training camp. From now on, your treatment will be automatically promoted to 2 stars. Given that you are the only one who has been promoted to 2 stars, coupled with your high scores and outstanding performance in Star Wars and Personal Wars, the training camp has decided to send a trainer to give you one-on-one training guidance. Also, starting today, you will have 2 opportunities for high-intensity physical training and cultivation improvement. This reward will be explained to you in detail by the instructor you choose later. I can tell you for sure. This reward is extremely precious. Don't use it on your own. It's best to use it under the guidance of a teacher. When you feel the time has come, use it again. In addition, when you are about to break through, the training camp will automatically give you more evolution points to help you break through. Now, you can choose your instructor. Bianzhan's words made everyone present look shocked and at the same time full of envy. Although I don't know how awesome the opportunity for high-intensity physical training and cultivation improvement is, but thinking about it, to be so solemnly reminded by the deputy battalion commander's side battle, it is obviously impossible to be wrong. The most important thing is, because Zian is currently the only 2-star player in the training camp. FTE. I actually got one-on-one training and guidance. One-on-one training. And a pair of 20 training. Obviously, it's not a concept at all. At the same time, Zian received another super high score of 88, and while fighting those words, also at top speed, spread throughout the training camp. This day, the whole training camp was sensational. The name of Zian. Completely, no one knows. On the training camp forum, countless students expressed their amazement. Because after they personally experienced the difficulty of training, they could better understand that Zian could achieve this score. And all three doors have reached this terrifying score. How outrageous is it? Let's not talk about Star Wars and Gajan. Just talk about practice points. It's all outrageous. The entire training camp right now, except for Zian, the highest score in Star Wars, personal war, and cultivation is only 27 points. It's still far from the passing score of 60. I want to achieve a passing score of 60 points. It takes at least 1 or 2 months of hard training. That is to say, among this batch of colleges. Since Zian, the second one that can achieve 2-star treatment. I'm afraid it will be 2 months later. On the forum, in addition to expressing admiration and envy for Zian, there are also expressions of admiration and love. Some bold women even directly initiated courtship towards Zian. Zian is an orthodox human race. In a true sense, the 213 is the most powerful and noble ethnic group in the universe. His talent is so strong. As long as he doesn't die young. After becoming a superpower in the future, he will definitely become one of the controllers of the Human Federation of the universe. Because of the unorthodox human race. No matter how strong you are, it is also impossible to hold a high position in the Cosmic Human Federation. Only the orthodox human race can, with such huge potential. The attraction to the opposite sex is undoubtedly huge. What's more, Zian still looks so handsome. For a while, there are countless people who seek love from Zian. These crazy women even directly massacred the entire forum. Of course, Zian didn't say anything. At this time, inside the Soaring Star training ground, after listening to what Bianzhan said, then through the cockpit glass, he saw Chongting staring straight at him. Zian did not hesitate and said to Bianzhan, Deputy Battalion Commander Bian, I choose teacher Chongting to continue as my teacher. As soon as these words came out, Chongting nodded slightly towards Zian. Bianzhan also laughed loudly and said, no problem. Then you will be able to enjoy one-to-one teaching in the next period of time. You are very lucky, you have 2-star treatment and one-on-one teaching. It's been very, very rare since we started training camp. Even if it appears, others will soon join with 2-star treatment. After Bianzhan finished speaking, he looked at Zhou Feiming and others and said, as for you, you will be placed in other classes later. Okay, that's it, finished. The side war flew away directly. He disappeared in an instant. Remaining people. They also left one after another under the orders of their respective teachers. Zhou Feiming and others. With a wry smile on his face. I haven't even had a fight with Chongting yet. As a result, the teacher was changed. But they had nothing to say. No way. Who said Zian is so awesome? 49, they can't even feel much envy anymore. Such talent, such strength. Envy cannot come from envy. Soon, their optical brain watches received the news that they had been reassigned to classes. No more ink marks after that. Immediately go to the location of your respective classes. Teacher Chong, Brother Su, we are leaving first. See you later. Brother Su is mighty. Brother Su, I will miss you. Brother Su, I really have a beautiful sister, do you really not want to consider it? Consider your sister. Can ordinary people fall in the eyes of Brother Su? Well, it seems to be the case. My sister is pretty, but she doesn't have a good temper, she really doesn't deserve it. Let's go, Takami. The classmates said hello and left. Soon. In the training ground in this area. Only Changting and Zian were left with 2 ships. Until the person leaves. Changting, who rarely showed a smile, said, "Your performance is so outstanding that I find it incredible. I didn't even expect that you could really set a record for the fastest promotion and treatment on the 3rd day. Just take advantage of the time now. Let me tell you about the high-intensity physical training and cultivation improvement." Zian immediately concentrated his attention. Changting continued, "Actually, from this name, you should be able to tell what this treatment is for." "That's right. This is specifically designed to improve your physical strength and improve your cultivation. However, the effect will far exceed the effect of daily practice in the practice room. Because of this high-intensity method, consumption is extremely enjoyable. If every student is equipped with such a cultivation method, we simply can't afford it. The tuition fee will be 10 times more, or even more, and you can't afford it. Such a huge price, the improvement in physical strength and cultivation level is undoubtedly extremely huge. So usually, students will use it when they encounter a bottleneck in their cultivation, in order to break through the bioenergy bottleneck. Of course, if you do it a lot, for example, after you get 5-star treatment and you can enjoy high-intensity physical training and cultivation improvement every day, it doesn't matter. At the end of every day's training, then do this kind of improvement. Believe me, I can't guarantee anything else. Within 1 year, I can guarantee that you will definitely reach the level of cruiser captain." Changting introduced with a smile. Zian's eyes narrowed. "Bottlenecks or something. There is no such thing for him. Others are practicing. Maybe because of physical strength limitations or other limitations. After the biological energy reaches a certain level, it will encounter a bottleneck and it will be extremely difficult to break through. Like many people with mediocre talents, why do they still stay at the frigate and assault ship level for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years? It's not because the evolution value is not enough. Evolution values are scarce no matter how scarce they are. As long as your luck is not too bad, you can kill 2 or 3 starships of the same level with the lowest quality. That is, the gray inferior quality has evolved to the next level. In fact, there is another very, very important reason. This is the bottleneck of cultivation. Where does bioenergy come from? Bioenergy is generated by breaking through one's own limits time and time again. But everyone's limit is limited, and this limited limit is talent. Some people may not be able to stimulate more bioenergy even after going to extremes countless times. Some people can easily stimulate more bioenergy once or twice. That's just for other people. For Zian, bottleneck is a non-existent concept. Conversion of wealth value. All bottlenecks must be overcome. But quickly strengthen your body and improve your cultivation. But it made Zian extremely jealous. Training in a normal training room can increase the speed of your biological energy by about 1/3. What if higher intensity training and improvement are performed regularly, or even every day? 2/3? Even 100%? Or even a higher cultivation speed? If that's the case, doesn't that mean, I even hope that in less than a year, or even within half a year, breakthrough to the level of cruiser captain? Zian expressed shock. He suddenly realized. This training camp is so worth it. Wait until you graduate. Maybe. Are they all already intermediate or even advanced cruiser captains? If so, say nothing more. Fight for this life. I also want to take advantage of the legendary 5-star treatment. So much so. Superstar treatment. If it really reaches 5-star or even superstar treatment. Maybe a year from now. Went to the battlefield, when I meet Haitang again. When Haitang saw herself with a higher level of cultivation than her. That stunned look will be very interesting and cute, right? Thinking about it, Zian grinned. And just to prove how awesome this high-intensity physical training and cultivation level improvement really is, Zian decided. 5.5, go try it now. Anyway, there is still enough time today. After all, now in the entire class 26, I am the only student. Chongting only needs to be responsible for himself. With 19 fewer people, we will have a lot more time. At present, the specific benefits of one-to-one are not yet reflected. But what follows? Only then can the true benefits of one-on-one training be truly realized. For example, there were no other 19 people. In terms of explanation, Chongting will be more detailed. For example, originally, it was only enough to go to the training room to practice once a day. Now, I am alone. As long as your body can bear it, you can practice for 20 king times. Of course, under normal circumstances, 2 or 3 times a day is enough. Unless the body is strong enough, it can absorb more Tian Kai Dibao spray. Otherwise, it would be enough to absorb it 2 or 3 times a day. With Zian's physical fitness, he can only do it 3 times a day. Otherwise, if your body is not strong enough, you can only do it once a day. Anyway, there are so many benefits. Now, Zian went to take a look. What on earth is that high intensity about? Are you going to undergo a high-intensity physical training and cultivation level improvement now? Chongting looked at Zian in surprise and asked. Zian nodded, yes, I want to try to see how big an improvement this can be. Chongting nodded indifferently and said, okay, you can just make your own decision. As a teacher, he had informed Zian how valuable this high-intensity opportunity was. His duty has been done. It is entirely up to Zian to decide what to choose next. Currently, Zian is given 2-star treatment and only has 2 chances in total. As for an opportunity for 1-star treatment, that is not counted. For example, Zian is currently receiving 2-star treatment, but he has used up both opportunities. So even within the next month, Zian was promoted to 3-star treatment again. There are only 2 left. The 3-star treatment is 4 opportunities per month. Now that the decision has been made, immediately, Chongting took Zian to the destination. Brilliant number. Then it flew directly and automatically to the maintenance factory of the training camp according to the route. The maintenance factory in the training camp has the most outstanding maintenance personnel. The repair of the Tsuetsan number can be completed in the shortest possible time. Zian, on the other hand, boarded Chongting's starship. What surprised Zian was that high-intensity device is not on the soaring star. Perhaps guessing Zian's doubts, Chongting explained, 11, that high-pressure training device is very huge. It is extremely expensive and is a top-secret item. Even our training camp only has this one. Actually, 1/3 of your training tuition is spent on the maintenance and consumption of this device. So this high-pressure cultivation device is on one of the satellites in our star system. Look, it's the satellite in front. As he spoke, Chongting nodded at a blue satellite in front of him. Zian nodded suddenly. It can be considered that I know the real name of this thing. High-pressure training equipment. Of course, it's unclear whether this is the real name of this thing, anyway. Just know that this thing is very precious. Even the Taiku Galaxy training camp only has one like this, and Chongting explained it so solemnly. It's enough to show how precious this thing is. Zian, his interest is also a little bit greater. Come to the satellite. There is only intelligent system control here, and there are no guards. This is normal. On training camp territory, wherever a guard is needed. What's more, if the smart system doesn't pass, no one else can get in. If you force your way in, all the strong men in the training camp will know about it immediately. After passing the review of the intelligence system, it landed on the satellite. This satellite has also been modified. There are no plants or anything. But having an atmosphere, oxygen, and gravity are also the most suitable gravity for normal humans. And on this satellite, look around. The entire surface was covered with a layer of metal. Under the metal is the high-pressure training device itself. And above this, far away, there is such a training room. According to Chongting's explanation, there are a total of 2,000 training rooms above, for use by all training camp personnel. Yes. All personnel. Teachers, instructors, deputy battalion commanders, and others. They will also come here to practice, as long as they do it often enough. This is also a benefit for them in the training camp. At this time, there are already more than a dozen starships parked on the landing pad. And they are all star destroyers, immortals, and the like. Apparently there are already people practicing at this time. He casually took Zian to a training room. This kind of training room is completely enclosed, and the situation inside cannot be seen. Okay, go in by yourself, the smart optical computer will give corresponding prompts. Chongting said, after I bring you here this time, you can just come here by yourself next time. But remember, the premise is that you have a number of times to practice. You won't be able to get in if you don't practice enough times. Zian nodded slightly to express his understanding. Then push open the door of the training room and enter directly. This high-pressure training room is very different from a normal training room. It was empty, there was nothing. At least it looks like. It seems like nothing special. Just when Zian was confused, the voice of the intelligent optical brain also sounded, Student Zian. 2-star treatment. Have twice the number of high-pressure training times. Based on student Zian's level of strength, 4 levels of high pressure will be assigned. During the practice, the gear will be automatically adjusted according to the physical endurance of the student Zian. Would you like to practice immediately? 4th gear. Zian guessed that he was now a destroyer captain, which was the normal position. After all, destroyers are the 4th level of biological captains. Immediately, without any hesitation, Zian said, "Start practicing." The intelligent optical brain immediately responded, preparing for practice. Student Zian, please go to the middle area of the training room. Upon hearing this, Zian immediately walked to the middle of the training room. The intelligent optical brain continued, "The high-pressure training is ready. Startup completed. Practice begins." With the last word of the intelligent optical brain falling. At once, Zian knew what this high-pressure training device meant. I also know what kind of cultivation method this thing is. The moment the practice begins, an indescribable terrifying pressure enveloped his entire being. Zian's body swayed and he almost fell to his knees due to this terrifying pressure. Fortunately, Zian's physical fitness is good enough, he gritted his teeth and stood on the bus again. This kind of terrifying pressure and normal gravity are 2 completely different concepts. Gravity makes oneself become overweight. Including one's own skin, bones, and even cells, all become extremely heavy. And this kind of high-pressure training directly compresses his entire being. It means compressing several cells into one cell. To describe it more simply, this high-pressure training method, it means to make a person's body become higher quality and denser. Not only that, at the same time, a lot of spray appears. Zian was completely enveloped. And this time, these Tian Kai Dibao sprays. Zian doesn't even need to absorb it himself. The ultra-high pressure in the training room actually forced these sprays directly into Zian's body through the pores of Zian's body in an extremely simple and crude way. Crazy tempering his body. And because of the high pressure, cells are constantly damaged and dying. It's when these Tian Kai Dibao sprays are integrated, repair and accelerate the division of new cells at a faster rate, this kind of cultivation method. I really want Zian to describe it. It's just like the initiation method in martial arts and fairy novels on Earth in ancient times. It is a master who directly and forcefully pours his lifelong skills into the opponent's body to forcibly enhance the opponent's strength and cultivation. This high-pressure training method, what is used is an initiation practice similar to this. In this way of cultivation, you don't even need to care about your talent. I don't care if you have any bottlenecks. It means to forcibly temper your physical strength, It means to force you to absorb the energy of these heavenly materials and earthly treasures. As for Zian, Tian doesn't need to do anything. Just sit or lie down. As for standing? That doesn't work. Because just for a moment, intelligent optical brain has once again made great efforts. It has been detected that student Zian's physical strength is extremely high. Now adjust the gear to 5th gear. The sound of the intelligent optical brain has just dropped. A more terrifying sense of oppression came over me. And more Tian Kai Dibao sprays, under the action of high pressure, converged towards Zian in the middle. It doesn't matter whether Zian wants it or not, it's just forceful indoctrination. The terrifying pressure made Zian finally unable to stand steadily anymore. He sat down directly on the ground and allowed this high-pressure training device to do whatever it wanted. At this moment, Zian finally understood. Why is this thing so precious? Chongting values it so much. It is even said that this is a cultivation method that is only chosen when encountering bottlenecks. Indeed, encountered a bottleneck. In this case of forced indoctrination. No matter how talented people are, they can still break through their own bottlenecks. It doesn't matter how talented you are. And Zian can feel it clearly. The effect of the heavenly materials and earthly treasure spray here is countless times better than that in a normal training room. Because it only takes a moment. Zian clearly felt that his physique was getting stronger and was still improving. You can even more clearly feel that your biological energy is increasing at a rate that is no less than the conversion rate of your own wealth. If you come here once a day, Zian even felt that. Perhaps, at most half a year. By himself, he can break through to the level of cruiser captain. This kind of practice, it's simply plug-in level. Coupled with my own system, I can practice my usual practice. Zian finally understood why this training camp was so expensive that even his master, Xiaodong Lu, felt pain. Why does everyone value this training camp so much? At this moment, Zian. It seems that I have already seen the cruiser level brilliant. Waving to him. Think of this. Zian immediately put aside all distracting thoughts. I began to cooperate wholeheartedly with the high-pressure training. Constitution. Skyrocketing. Cultivation. Skyrocketing. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.